guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Julene with JovesStar Astrology. How you doing? Friday, November the 15th, 2024, here to talk about the full moon in Taurus that we have going on right now. And this is an interesting one. I've looked at this, and I'm like, there's so much going on in this chart, you guys, that I didn't even know where to start, right? All I can say is, and we'll break it down, is welcome to the shit show. If you guys are feeling like you are in the middle of a shitstorm, it is not your imagination. It is absolutely happening. And you could be the innocent bystander in some kind of storm or craziness. We could call it craziness too, because things are probably feeling a little bit crazy right now. Or you could be the person that's causing it, and maybe not purposely, but or you could be the person that is, sort of the target of these kinds of things. Nonetheless, there are things going on, and you can look at this time period and you can wonder if some people realize that something is coming for them, right? It's like, this is a good time to be on the right side of the fence, the authentic side of the fence. How's that? Last video that I did on the new moon in Scorpio, I talked about how important it is before Pluto goes into Aquarius to start to take some action on the things that you really feel passionate about, right? And connecting with the people that you resonate with and that you can build things with, or move into the future with. That it was the time, right, to start coming together to develop new and different things so we can move forward. And that couldn't be more true. And it's kind of a period of time where I think we might be uncertain exactly where that is if we don't know, right? There are just so many options, or so many things that you want to do, and where it stops, nobody knows, right? It's a little bit of a shitstorm, right? And so we are in the middle of that. And that just is, from looking at the chart, and feeling it myself, is that we're just in the middle of a huge period of change and flux, right? And I don't think that we know where all of this is going to stop or where we're going to land. So, being flexible and keeping our eyes and ears open is going to help with this. So we're going to take a look at this full moon. And, interestingly, this full moon, a full moon is a culmination. Yes, I've said this before, it represents, the prior 2 weeks, that particular 30-day cycle, but it stretches beyond that. And what I noticed with this full moon that we're having today is that 6 months ago, we had a new moon in Taurus on May the 7th, 2024, where Uranus was heavily involved, and Uranus is heavily involved in this new moon, or this full moon as well. But what was interesting is we still had Jupiter in Taurus at that time. It was at the tail end of Taurus. And Jupiter, where Jupiter transits, it's a little bit of a slower planet, but Jupiter is going to open up the degree that it's sitting on, right? And a lot of it is so that what is coming in behind it, it's opened it up, it's put it on the table, it's considered that degree, and how to grow something there. And then, that happens over time. We don't always see the immediate effects of a transit where Jupiter transits over a degree. But we had Jupiter at 25 degrees. I believe it was 25 degrees. Let me just double check here. I'm going to throw my chart up in just a second, but I just want to double check and make sure Yes, Jupiter was at 25 degrees of Taurus on May the 7th, which was the new moon in Taurus. And we have now a duplication of that degree in this particular lunar event. We have Uranus now at 25 degrees. So the new moon on May the 7th was conjunct Uranus by a few degrees, and this particular full moon is conjunct Uranus as well. So there's a theme there. The reason I'm telling you this is go back, take a look at or think about what was going on in the beginning of May and see if there are any themes that are related to what might be going on for you now. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the chart and pull the chart up here. Here we go. This is the full moon in Taurus we are experiencing today, November the 15th in the United States. 2024, where I'm at in Phoenix, Arizona, this full moon will be occurring at 2:28 p.m., which is just a few hours from now where I'm at. Check a time zone converter for other areas. The West Coast is going to be the same time, and it's going to be a little bit later in the afternoon on the East Coast, so 4:28 p.m. Now, let's take a look at the factors. There's a lot to break down here with this full moon. So it's give me a little bit of latitude here. Okay, so here we have the full moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus, which is a big deal. Conjunct Uranus. Uranus, the twists and turns and the directions that we might go and what might be changing very suddenly in some ways can be unexpected. We may not see it coming. It's conjunct the moon. So that's our inner emotional, selves, right? So even if the issue at hand, something that turns around or comes up or changes rapidly is something that we're familiar with, we may not have expected whatever that is to actually sort of go boom right now in this time period. So we may not be entirely ready for it. But when we have a lunar event, this is a full moon, so a culmination, something coming to an end, conjunct the planet Uranus, I kind of feel like the results are going to happen pretty quickly, right? So we could have a quick new beginning or a quick ending leading into a new beginning, or an aha moment or something here that could really throw us off balance. And when in the Taurus area of your chart, when you think about things that Taurus represents, it represents anything that we possess, anything that we need, anything that we want, anything that we're used to that makes us feel good. It represents resources and money. So there are a lot of things here that we could be seeing sort of, spark and become somewhat of a disruption or a change that might throw us off balance. Now, Uranus, wants us to move forward. It wants progress. And sometimes, Taurus, a fixed earth sign, can get a little stuck in its ways. It likes what it likes, and it appreciates what it's familiar with. And sometimes it just wants to stay right there. But it might be something that we need to move on from. And, if we're not ready to do that on our own, something may come along that pushes us out of that comfort zone. And that's what we're potentially looking at here. So, you're going to want to keep your eyes and ears open, or, at least be walking around these days, holding on to something so that you don't fall down. Remember, Taurus, it's material, right? It's something in our material world. And this could also be related to health too, because Taurus is a lot about our bodies. and our health, in many ways, and, how we've taken care of things, which is how that all kind of comes back into our resources and our needs and, our survival, um, fight or flight types of things, all of those kinds of things are Taurus. Anyway, full moon, opposite, obviously, the sun, which is in the sign of Scorpio. And even though it is a full moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus, which I think is going to be the spark, I really feel like the sun here, which is going to illuminate, facing off with the moon, what the issues are. I feel like Scorpio, the sun in Scorpio, might have a little bit of an advantage. And of course, any opposition, which a full moon is a test for us to be able to balance the opposition, right? And this one is obviously no different, but I kind of feel like leaning into the Scorpio side of this might help us sort of absorb that shock factor a little bit, because, Scorpio, a fixed water sign, right? Another sign that doesn't like to move well, but is super, super intuitive, right? And this particular opposition to the sun in Scorpio, I think deep down inside, we may already know, we may already sense, we may have already done our homework. This degree for Scorpio towards the end of the third decan of Scorpio has memory, right? It's something from deep down in the depths, but it's smart and it's investigative. And this particular degree in the Sabian symbols talks about an X-ray, right? Investigation. So something could be being uncovered, right? Coming out from under the shadows, or we could have done that work ourselves, right? Like really looking deeply at something. And we could be the one that is, blowing things up if we've paid attention to the information that we're getting intuitively or otherwise from Scorpio. And of course, that could be something that we've been picking up on for a long time, but we've been in Scorpio season for a little while here. So the sun in Scorpio is nothing to sleep on here when it comes to this lunation, in my opinion. Okay. Now, the other reason I think that the sun in Scorpio has a little bit of an edge here, and it might be helpful, is because the rulers are in an opposition. Not an exact opposition, but this is a powerful opposition. Mars opposing Pluto in the sign of Capricorn at the very end of the sign of Capricorn, where we know that things are changing. Old patterns are changing, right? But there is a fight here to the death between the old and Mars and Leo, the new, young and old, new and old, right? Mars has gone into Leo. It's going to retrograde soon. And I talked about this the last time. It's going to retrograde in just a couple of weeks and then move back into Cancer. So this is something, that this is a power struggle or an opposition that we're going to be dealing with for a while. But there is about to be some very significant movement, and we all need to sort of watch out for it. But the rulers of the sun here in the sign of Scorpio, the opposition to this full moon, are in a very powerful opposition. Are they at odds with one another? Are we at odds with ourselves, whether or not we maintain the way that we've always done things, and we push back? No, I don't want to move forward. I don't want to progress. I don't want to change. But there's a part of us that's saying we've got new places to go. We've got new desires to fulfill. This could be an internal struggle. Or we could actually be in a power struggle with something or someone outside of us. And being forced to make a choice here. Very powerful full moon. The ruler of the full moon itself, which we'll take a look at now, is Venus. And here we have Venus over here in the sign of Capricorn. Very practical, not so warm and fuzzy. Venus in the sign of Capricorn, which represents our traditions and what we find is going to be of long-term value to ourselves, to us and to others. It can represent work, our plans, our, all of those Capricornian things. And the ruler of this full moon, this is where we get into, like, when I said to you, oh my gosh, there's so many moving parts. Welcome to the shit show. The ruler of this full moon is squaring the nodes, right? The nodes of the moon, which obviously are related to where the moon is in transit. So whenever we have a planet that is squaring the nodes, we're talking about fated events. We're talking about a push to evolve from something into something, or to integrate those energies, right? And where are the nodes? The nodes are still in Libra and Aries. And Venus rules the South node, while Mars rules the North node, which is one of the rulers of the other side of this full moon. So as you can see, it's all related. This T-square to the ruler of the full moon is asking us, what are we going to do? Are we going to take what we've learned and move and use that? We're going to have to choose, like, what is worth it, right? Venus in Capricorn, is it worth continuing to nurture and grow relationships, or however, the way we look at things, the way we balance things out? Libra and Aries is very much about the difference between how we relate to other people and what we're doing for ourselves, right? It's us and them. And so Venus at the T-square of the nodes ruling this full moon is asking us to integrate what we've learned so that we can move forward. It's asking us to change our outlook on how we do relationships, or how we look at what is fair and balanced. And Venus in Capricorn, again, not so warm and fuzzy. It's going to look at what is practical, right? What is going to last longer? What makes the most sense for me to maintain and to work on? And how can I move forward using that, the values, right? Venus values, whether it's values or money or a relationship or whatever it might be, Venus representing all of those things. Are we staying in the old way, the way we've always done things? Are we moving into something new? And so this creates tension. It is a turning point when we have a planet squaring the nodes. And so it makes it more powerful because it's the ruler of this lunation. So you might be faced with some serious questions in terms of what is practical. What is practical in terms of what I'm doing for a living? What is practical in terms of the relationships I have? What is practical in terms of, my material wealth, finances? How do I work things out? How do I move things forward? This is a powerful time too, where, you have the ability, if you are somebody who hesitates, to actually break out of habits and situations and move things into a different place. And these things may just happen suddenly, right? These could be things, like I said, we've contemplating for a long time and we've hesitated doing anything about. This is a critical point where we may have to make a decision if we can't move something forward and do something differently, we may be choosing to stay stuck in past behaviors, past situations, whatever that might be. So keep that in mind. And the pressure you'll feel, we're going to be feeling the pressure of this. So very electrifying full moon that is going to potentially shock us and turn us around and put us into a new direction, especially if we're not ready. So flexibility is important. And where is that coming from? I mean, we all have access here to some flexibility, but this is also where things might be feeling really crazy right now because we have immutable signs that are highly activated and a part of what's going on in the atmosphere right now as well. So we have a Mercury in its opposite sign of Sagittarius, and we have Jupiter in Gemini retrograde. Yeah, they're neither of these planets are said to do well in these signs because they're their opposite signs, but they are in what we call in astrology a mutual reception. So they can work together. But these might be head shaking moments, right? So a lot going on, a lot of options, a lot of conversations, a lot of movement, a lot of confusion could be happening in your world right now, or even in your own mind, especially if you're a mutable sign. I can tell you, I have a lot of mutability in my chart. I can talk really fast sometimes. I think a lot. Things, I overdo things. Jupiter overdoes things, right? In the sign of Gemini, I can be overthinking. But if we balance this the right way and we're used to working with mutable energy, this is an opposition in mutual reception where we can really pull things together. We can state our case. We can put things in writing very, very systematically, right? Breaking things down. We can have dynamic conversations and we can present things and we can really move things along based on how we're interacting, communicating, and connecting the dots of what's going on in the bigger picture. Sometimes it's hard to do, though. It can feel like this incredible pressure, like where so much is coming at you. And of course, we have this opposition in a T-square to Saturn, which is over here in the sign of Pisces. So Saturn and Pisces, there's something in the way from what we're trying to explain, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to plan, where we're trying to go, what we're trying to grow. Saturn has been in Pisces in this square to Jupiter for a while, and it's going to square Jupiter exactly again because Saturn is going. Saturn has not right at this moment, I don't believe, but you can see. Right, let me just point out the S here. You can see that Saturn is stationed in this chart. And what that means is it's coming out of its retrograde. It is stationed on the 12th degree of Pisces because it's going to go direct, which means it's going to start moving forward. So we have been feeling a delay in communication. We're trying to talk to people. We're trying to get things moving. Something's been in the way. There's silence. There's uncertainty. There are blocks. There is sadness. There's lack of energy, whether it's from us or from the other parties or the projects that we're doing. There's been a block. Things probably have felt very slow, very uncertain. And when Mercury is squaring Saturn, we're probably not going to get anywhere in resolving something in our minds or in some kind of communication. We could be waiting for the result of so many things, right? A contract, waiting to hear back from people, right? This is a stop and go, on and off, very frustrating potentially energy if you are in a position where you are trying to get things moving. And Jupiter suggests that we're trying to grow things. We're trying to get things moving. And so there we have the square to Jupiter. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait. It's a lot of internal excitement. It's a lot of, trying to unpack and figure out what's going on. And we have had a roadblock. So Saturn going direct, and applying to where this full moon is occurring, applying to Uranus, we may see, because Uranus is sudden, we may see sudden movement, and we may have Saturn here, whatever authority that is, or whatever has been holding us back. And keep in mind too, we don't always know what's going on with Saturn and Pisces. Like, it's kind of like Oz behind the curtain sometimes. You could be the Saturn in Pisces, and you could be the quiet one stating your case. You could be a combination of all three. I can tell you that is a situation that I've been in here, with more than one thing, where I have a lot of mutable energy. I have a Jupiter in Gemini. I have a Mercury in Gemini. I have a South Node that is in Sagittarius, right? And I have a Saturn Pisces. And I can tell you the volley back and forth communication, trying to get things moving. I felt the frustration, right? I felt the block. But there are, in some instances, where I'm actually the one that is choosing to sit back and remain silent and not move. I may have been the block because I feel like things are too crazy to push forward. I can feel it inside. Like, I want it to. It's like this intensity. And I have had to be really careful to not lose my temper, even though this kind of energy, people could be saying and doing and moving in such erratic, sort of crazy ways that it's pushing your buttons, right? And maybe the test is can we hold the line? Can we hold the integrity? Can we look at the bigger purpose? Because if we can, there might be a win at the end of this, maybe, or things are going to fall how they're supposed to. But when you're talking mutable energy, and especially Pisces, it's very difficult to grasp the concept of the unknown, right? So there's a little bit of faith there that we have to have. But this is interesting. And, having a sense of humor is going to be important, or just knowing that if you're being blocked and it's not time to move, that you got to kind of listen to that, because no matter how frustrating it is, and you'll know, like, I've had situations where I've laid a proposal out, or an argument out, or information out, and I've done my homework. I try to do that. I have a Virgo stellium. I don't always do a really good job at it, but depending on what it is and how high the stakes are, I try to make sure that I've done the research, and that I've picked things apart, and I understand the detail, and I've written and communicated a plan, right? And so, because Virgo wants to make sure that it does things perfectly. And, if you're in a battle, right, because that's the opposite side, and this is an opposition, and you've got strong Virgo, or you can fall back on that Virgo. You can go into Virgo, and that's what I would recommend. If you're feeling the pressure or intensity, and you're feeling like no matter what you're saying, it's falling on deaf ears, or people aren't understanding, or you're putting things out there and you're getting the most ridiculous, off color, out of context responses, and just shaking your head, this is like Twilight Zone shit, potentially. Fall back into Virgo, which is sitting back and putting your ducks in a row, making sure that what you have done and what you have presented, and the homework that you've done, and the maintenance, and all of those things, the work in the sign of Virgo that you have done, is going to help you stick a landing at some point when things start to move. Because one thing we know for sure is, when we've got mutable energy really, really in a tight T-squares, or just really present in the astrology, things are going to change. But right now it feels frustrating. And mutable signs want, they're used to that. Yeah, maybe, depending on the rest of your chart, you don't always appreciate the change when it comes, but we're used to change. But right now is like a kind of a hurry up and wait. But I'm kind of looking at it as there's a purpose behind all of this. But anyway, Saturn goes direct today. It goes direct right after the full moon, but it'll be stationed. So that is an indication that something is potentially moving forward. There's some kind of block or delay. Something will show itself. And, you know, it's a lot of behind the scenes, you know, planning and working that we've been doing since Saturn went retrograde in June, which was right after the new moon in Taurus. That is related to this full moon in Taurus. So it's dynamic. There's a lot here that's dynamic. And there is a lot here that is going on sort of like in the bigger realms and bigger pictures that needs to be taken care of before we can do new things, right? This Pluto in Capricorn, you know, this is a dying off of old things and a face off, like I said, of what's new. And this is the last pass here in Capricorn, this last sweep of Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So it's very intense, and it's going to be, the changes will be very permanent, but we are going to see this in the world and in our lives if we're affected by this. So just know that there's a reason. It's like the universe is saying, we know there are new things coming, but you have to settle the old things first. And I'm a firm believer in that. You know, that has something to do with, you know, again, but go back to this Venus here, where it's like, what do we take forward and what do we leave behind? You know, how do we get to this new place, this Aries North Node place? Is that we're not completely destroying the old foundations, but that we are figuring out what we can use to build on top of that in a clean way, right? With all of the gunk and all the garbage that came with those Capricornian themes, right? Big business, greed, you know, corporate structure, government structures, all of those things. How do we get rid of the garbage? That's what Pluto does. It goes under and it clears out the scum and the slime. So how do we get rid of that? You know, clean the foundation, keep the things that are pure and good and that are helpful, and move things forward. And that is a painful process. And that is what's going on right now. Pluto is now direct. It's November 15th. It is going to enter back into the sign of Aquarius very, very soon. Back when the new moon occurred in Taurus on May the 7th, Pluto was just gone retrograde, but it was at 2 degrees of Aquarius. And we had Mars in Aries, and we had, I think at that point in time, because that was shortly after the eclipse in Aries, is like we were moving into something new. But Mars in Aries can sometimes move a little bit too quickly. So I feel like we were moving towards healing something, moving towards starting something new for ourselves, moving towards expressing ourselves differently, taking action. And then all of a sudden, Pluto goes retrograde. So it's going back into Capricorn. And Saturn goes retrograde. And we are being told we moved too quickly. It's not ready yet. You can even see it back when we look at that lunation. But now things are going to move forward. So something may have stalled for you, whatever that might be. A job search, a relationship, you know, something that, you know, you're building. Could be anything, right? It could be anything. And we may have felt like a regression of sorts or a delay for a while now. And I think now is the time where we make the decisions to move forward. And we could have some really shocking things come up that push us forward. And that's what this full moon could be representing. again, when you're feeling all of the stress and all of the craziness of this mutability, that's, you know, a part of this, fall back on Virgo. It may definitely be helpful. Because there's just a lot going on here that could be causing pressure. And, you know, when we're talking about, you know, big changes and flux in the world, when it comes to Taurus things, right? Finances and resources, and what direction is going to go, there's going to be some upsetting of the apple cart. But we've already experienced, you know, volatility in all of that. So where will the change lead us? Into a better place? Hopefully. I think there's a lot to be said here about whether or not we panic. You know, what do we do as a result? What are our reactions? I think remaining flexible and calm and open, and knowing when to sort of, you know, take a pause is important. And we've been forced to do that for a while now. But I think now we're going to get a jump start. It may not feel comfortable, whatever that jump start is, but I think it's coming. And of course, you know, if you have anything in the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, towards the end, right? As it relates to this full moon, towards the end of those signs. So maybe 22 degrees to, you know, 27, 28 degrees of any of the fixed signs, this full moon is going to affect you in a very loud way. And you're going to be affected by these things if you're in your nodal return. You know, if you have anything in cardinal signs in the early degrees, you're going to feel it. And then, of course, the mutable signs are feeling things. So this is another lunation where I don't think any of us are immune to feeling what's going on. There's just a lot of change, and people aren't afraid to say what's on their mind right now. That's what's going on here. And some people aren't ready for it. And I think the people that aren't ready for it are the people that have to answer the questions. I think, you know, the complacency of people that are in power or have been in power for a long time, Capricorn, no matter what that might be, are feeling a little uncomfortable because they're being questioned, because there's so much change and so much newness. They don't know how to respond to this kind of change and this kind of, like, you know, almost like it could be inquisition, right? It could be just like you've sat in that chair in that spot for long enough and we don't like it. It's not working anymore. And now we have to make a change. You could see a lot of people in higher positions and positions of power losing, you know, their ground to much younger people that are ready to take some bold action, move forward, and actually speak out. That's another possibility with this opposition. So there's so much going on. We're seeing it out there in the collective. There's a lot of change. We're seeing change, you know, in our government. Obviously, it just had the election. We're seeing change in our immediate environments. We're seeing change in Piscean things. The Saturn's been in Pisces for a long time. A lot of healthcare things. We've seen some developments there. It's like, what are we going to see with healthcare and big pharma and mental health and all of these things that are going on? I think there's going to be a lot to answer to for people that have been holding these positions. And I think we're going to see new things coming in. I don't know how easy that's going to be, but, you know, some of us have roles to play, I believe, in those situations. But we have a lot of head shaking moments going on, and I've experienced them myself, where it's like the responses in the environment are erratic and just feeling a little bit like crazy town these days. And just, you got to know, right? You got to know when to hold them, because at the end of the day, there is a purpose for all of this. I firmly believe that there is a purpose for all of this. and it's going to fall into place. That's my firm belief. I'm holding on to that, right? I mean, like, what choice do I personally have with all immutability? But this is like, just know that things are moving forward, and if something comes up that throws you off, there might be something that comes right in to catapult you forward. And this full moon could bring, obviously unexpected things with conjunct Uranus, but they could also be wonderful surprises, right? Again, Jupiter was back on this degree in this area here back in May the 7th. And this was right after the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that happened in late April. So it's all connected. What has been growing, right? Is it now time to show itself, or is there a change coming? Did we feel like we were on a trajectory of change at the time, and then there was a pullback because there are things that had to be cleared out first, and now we're going to start moving forward? These could be positive changes, positive, movement forward out of nowhere that could be beneficial to us too. Taurus related things, financial things, our health. We could suddenly get better if we've been having a hard time. Our finances could experience a shakeup, and it could be positive. That helps us move forward and, see more abundance. It can go kind of either way. So I'm not saying it has to be negative, but it definitely is going to be something that, if you're affected by this, something that's going to be a complete and utter breakthrough, change, turnaround. It should be interesting. I'm going to read the Sabian symbol for this full moon, and then listen, down in the comments, please, let me know what is going on for you guys. Feeling some of the same thing, where it's like, even if it's just, in conversations or, in the course of trying to, work on things that you're feeling delayed, you're feeling like you're struggling against something or someone. Yeah, these are very crazy times. And I think the reactions are potentially a little bit off the wall. I'm experiencing that. Again, if you're feeling that, go to Virgo, right? Just put your ducks in a row and know that you've got everything, done that you need to do when it's time, so that when it's time, you can lay it out. You are ready to go, because, Virgo is really good at that. So fall back on Virgo for that. And we'll see what happens. I think that, it should be interesting. It was funny when I looked at this, I was like, oh my gosh, do I even want to talk about this? Because it is potentially a shit show and a lot to put together. Or do I just want to talk about the Mike Tyson fight, right? Some mindless astrology. Well, obviously I chose the full moon, but it's interesting because I like sports. You guys that have been around for a while know that. But it's interesting, we have a young person, right? A young, this Mars and Leo, and an older, powerful person going, standing out in a fight. This is like interesting. And I did look at the chart. I'm not going to look at it with you guys, but there's a lot of this full moon going on in the charts of these two people, because one of them has a lot of mutability in their chart. And then another has a lot of fixed energy. We'll both have fixed energy. So this is kind of like going on. So this is a real world example. So we'll see how that kind of turns out. Again, it doesn't always mean we're completely throwing out the tradition or what's old, but are we keeping what's new? Have we been building on top of a foundation so that we have something strong and it's not something icky and gross that we're using, or hiding away. So I don't know. When it comes to that fight, if Mike Tyson has actually been taking care of himself and he's strong, even though he's older, he's very powerful, and we'll see who's all talk. But my prediction is on Mike Tyson. Just saying. Anyway, we're going to read the Sabian symbol. I am going to take the chart down. We're going to read the Sabian symbol for 25 degrees of Taurus. And let's see. 25 degrees Taurus. I'm getting there. All right. 25 degrees Taurus, a large, well-kept public park, keyword recreation, group work. The symbol speaks to a division of labor and to the benefits to be gained by working with others in a common group endeavor. The image of a large, well-kept public park describes a community gathering place, and it dramatizes the fact that there are some things in life that an individual can't accomplish by himself or that require cooperative effort to establish and maintain. It also emphasizes the fact that self-worth can be realized only in the ordinary, everyday world as the individual discovers when and how he needs others and they in turn need him. At its highest, this symbol represents community leadership and an unselfish dedication to the welfare of all people. Negative would be lack of self-confidence and a tendency to be easily swayed or influenced by the thoughts and opinions of others. The accent is on enjoyment. Take time to savor the fruits of your labor. Community or social gatherings bring special pleasure. Your greatest advantage lies in working on group rather than personal projects at this time. And, Uranus represents a group, right? Also the collective, the group. So this could be changes that you're experiencing that could be affecting the people that you're associated with, the groups that you are in, or, whether that be intimately or otherwise. It could also represent the entrance or the end or the exit of old people and the new people coming in, right? This is group change, group think, group emotions even, right? Your greatest advantage lies in working in a group. Okay, focus on aesthetics and add a touch of beauty to the world around you. Guard against giving into pressure from others against your better judgment. Don't waste your time arguing over trivial matters. Keywords are common ground, cooperative effort, shared resources, group project, division of labor, beautification. So this is coming together to create change. So it last time there was an element there too when we had the new moon in Scorpio. So we're really getting pushed towards group issues, changing groups, upsetting ideas, creating new ideas, connecting with new people. And that is a lot of what Pluto and Aquarius is going to be pushing us towards once it goes back into Aquarius, which is very, very soon. So days to like this next week, really, really be prepared for a lot of change, a lot of flux, a lot of unexpected things to happen, because I think that we will see those things rather quickly show themselves, especially with, like I said, the planet Saturn going direct, ruling Pluto and Capricorn, both Mars and Pluto, and the opposition ruling the sun side of this full moon, and Venus and Capricorn squaring the nodes of the moon. And both Mars and Venus in play here in some way in this lunation in a very tight aspect to another planet. So we've got change going on. We've got maybe a little chaos going on. We've got a little bit of shake our head, maybe Twilight Zone moments going on. Keep your cool, folks. Keep your minds open. Keep your cool. Let the dust settle. I think as Saturn starts to move forward, we're able to move forward. It might be in a calculated, slower kind of way, but I think we're going to see some forward movement on the work that we've been doing, whatever that might be. But there's going to be a lot of adjustment, because remember, Mars is retrograde. It's going to go retrograde about at 6 degrees of Leo very, very soon. It's going to go back and forth back to Cancer. and then forward again. So we had a long Mars retrograde, and remember, Mars rules Pluto, which has gone back into Capricorn and now moves forward into Aquarius. So this is a story that's going to play out over time, but this is a critical time. Scorpio season, from Taurus season to Scorpio season, and now we've got these highlighted themes. So just remember, Saturn going direct today, big piece of this. Let me know what's going on for you down in the comments. I'd love to hear if you want to take a look at this full moon and how it is affecting you, or anything else in your birth chart. Never had a birth chart reading, get a hold of me. My email address is down below. You can also send me a message through my website, which is also listed down below. And, I'd love to meet you. I'd love to help you out, hear what's going on in your life. How are things moving? What side of the equation here are you falling on? Are you a mutable sign? Are you a fixed sign? What is going on, and how can you navigate this in the best way possible? But change is on the horizon, and I don't think any of us have much of a choice. It's our reactions that we have a choice. We can choose that. So I'm going to let you go. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time. Until then, may the stars forever be in your favor. Take really good care, and I will talk to you soon.